Chicago. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we are here today to make a very, very important announcement, and that is that Women's March Chicago, along with many, many, many allies, friends, and supporters, are planning some amazing things come 2020. So before I give you the list of things that we are planning to do, I just want to make acknowledgement of some of our partners who are standing here with us today. We have Friends Who March, Illinois Democratic Women, Illinois Handmaids, right. Indivisible Chicago, Indivisible Evanston, Kids Off the Block, League of Women Voters of Illinois, Moms Demand Action Illinois, Planned Parenthood Illinois Action, She Votes, Women Employed, and the YWCA of Metropolitan Chicago, as well. And last but certainly not least, Service Employees International Union, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, and Missouri. And Rainbow Push, who is a partner, friend, and supporter to us all. And so we again have some announcements to make, but I want you to pay close attention. If you need to get your pads out, make sure you do, because this is something you don't want to miss. January 2020, on January 18th of 2020, we are going to have our kickoff march here, right here, where we're standing here today in Grant Park, along Columbus Drive, and taking over the city once again. On March 17th is the Illinois primary, and we know what that means. And let's just think about what that means in reference or connection to today, which is what?
Voter registration.
It's the National Voters Registration Day. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we know if it's happening around the country, it's definitely happening here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In April, guess what's gonna happen? The 2020 what? All right, and we all have to be counted, because if you're not counted in, you will be left out. And we need an accurate count here in the state of Illinois and all the states to make sure that people are counted and that we get the funding and the services in our communities that are needed, and that we have the representation legislatively that we want to have. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and just make sure that all of us are counted. So be talking to your friends, your family, loved ones. Everyone in your household has to be counted. I don't care what age they are. July is what? Democratic National Convention in Milwaukee. In October, we will have a fall march. That march is the March to the Polls. And we're going to be marching to the polls throughout this whole city, throughout this whole Cook County, all of the counties of Illinois, and throughout this state. We are going to be marching to the polls to make sure that we get the right people in office who will protect all of the issues that will be talked about and discussed today.
That's right.
And it is also an opportunity for us to kick off early voting. So we know how important that is. We've watched it over the years. When people go out and vote early, it's like, okay, I already got that done, and guess what? I can use my time now to help get other people to the polls, right? Okay. And then, finally, on November 3rd, what's gonna happen? We're gonna have a party, because guess Okay. So, I was going to say that. Okay. So right now, I'd like to bring our first speaker up. It's Audra Wilson from the League of Women Voters, Illinois. Please welcome Audra.
Stand behind here. Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I am so happy to be standing with all my sisters, my peers, our colleagues, so thank you so much. So, for those of you who don't know, the League of Women Voters of Illinois is a nonpartisan grassroots civic organization. And we are also born out of women's suffrage. So for us, there is nothing more sacred than the right to vote.
That's right.
And we will do anything we can to protect that right to vote. We believe that voting is the way that citizens express their opinions in a democracy. And it's crucial to activating the democratic process. And that's why we are standing here today on National Voting Registration Day. Now, this is so important because on any given day, there are so many Americans, millions quite frankly, who are not able to cast their ballots because they're not registered. And they may not even realize that they're not registered. It could be something as allowing their registration to lapse, or not knowing where to go, or some more insidious schemes that people, because they haven't voted in a while, find that their names have been purged off of voter registration lists. And that's why we're here today, to call attention to why it's so important to register. And voting is a fundamental process that allows citizens to choose their government, and it allows them to hold their elected officials responsible. That's why it is so important for us to get as many people engaged and activated as possible. Especially, and we are a nearly 100-year-old organization, and 100 years later, we are still dealing with schemes to keep people from the ballot. 100 years after the passage of the 19th Amendment, okay? And 53 years after the passage of the Voting Rights Act, we are now dealing with schemes to do everything possible to keep people away from the ballot. And that's why it's so important that all of you are standing here today and making sure people understand why it's so important to be engaged and involved. But the last thing I'll say is, it's not just about registering, folks. It's about actually getting out there and voting.
Yes!
Right?
Yes!
That's right.
So you can't rest on your laurels by saying, hey, I registered and I registered my friends and I got my family and I got them to re-register to renew their registration. We got to get people out there to vote. So we will be standing with you as we are marching to the polls and encouraging people to get out there and exercise this very hallowed right. Okay? Because quite frankly, if you're not participating, you can't complain.
That's right.
All right? So, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I thank you so much for allowing us to be here with you, and we look forward with you in the fight.
Audra, we thank you for being here with us, for standing with us as you always do, because this is a society, it's a democratic society, which means that everyone has the right to vote, right?
Right.
So we don't tell people how to vote, nor do we tell people who to vote for. What we do encourage people to do is to vote. So we can get, to Audra's point, we can get 100,000 people registered to vote, but if only 5,000 out of that 100,000 go to vote, actually go to the polls to vote, it really will not make the difference that we need to count, right? Okay. So our next speaker is, oh my God, I don't have enough time to say everything I want or need to say about this woman. She is my sister in the movement. She's my sister in the hood. She's my sister in God. She is an amazing, amazing woman. Founder and leader of Kids Off the Block. Please welcome Diane.
Well, thank you. I am so honored to be here. My message is to the young people.
Yes, yes.
Young people ages 18 to 23 in 2020 are projected to comprise 1 in 10 eligible voters, according to the Pew Research Center. But will they come out to vote? Or will they once again let older voters speak for them? There is so much at stake. I got to get off script for 1 minute.
Right.
Young people, it is so much at stake.
That's right.
We need your vote.
That's right. That's right.
If you can, just go. You got the world at your fingertips. Go online. See all the sacrifices that were made.
That's right.
Voting is your right.
That's right.
And people died to make it so.
That's right.
I just want you to know that. So get it in your mind that every vote affects you and that yours is important.
Right. Yep.
Kids off the block, look us up, contact us if you need help in registering, if you want to know more about the issues that affect you, because everyone does. Every issue affects you. Remember that.
That's right.
But look us up, and if you need any more help with anything, just look us up and contact us. We'll help you get to the polls. Okay?
That's right.
So I want to thank Women's March and all these powerful I just get chills thinking about all these powerful women. We going to the polls and we gonna change things. Remember that. All right? All right?
Woo! Diane is absolutely right. We're going to the polls and we are going to change things. Right? Isn't that hopeful? Isn't that hopeful? That gives you something to hope for and look forward to. And so our last speaker is Tina Hone. I'm sorry, I was about to say Horn, about to match you up with Lena. I know, right? She is another amazing sister out here doing some wonderful, wonderful things. She represents the YWCA of Metropolitan Chicago, and we're going to ask Tina to come up and tell you what their plans are.
Thank you so much, Jackie. So I'm Tina Hone, Chief Equity Officer at the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago, and I'm here to talk about Census 2020. YWCA Metropolitan Chicago's mission is to eliminate racism and empower women. And there is no greater act of empowerment than exercising your right to vote and participating in the census. A lot of talk about the census is about funding, and funding is incredibly important. Millions of dollars are at risk for the state of Illinois, and those dollars are important. We'll feel them if we lose them in our schools and our health care and on our roads and bridges. But what is much more important, and at the core of Census 2020 and all decennial census, is the fair apportionment of political power. There are 2 congressional seats at stake in the state of Illinois. And if you think that won't matter, when we lose that type of political heft, we will feel it more than even the loss of the funding. One of the things about Census 2020 that concerns me the most is that all the talk about confidentiality and the now illegal citizenship question will have a chilling effect on participation by some of the most important segments of our society. African Americans, immigrants, the poor, people who, there are folks who just don't want to count. And I say, make them count you.
Yes.
You have a right to be counted in this nation. It is how you get your fair voice in the Congress, in state legislatures across this country. Make them count you. You know, one of the reasons that people are afraid to participate is because of confidentiality. I have to say, I worked on the 2000 decennial census in Washington, D.C. I was working with Bill Daley, who was the Secretary of Commerce at the time. I am telling you, the professionals at the Census Bureau, they will go to jail before they breach the confidentiality of that count. Their belief is in the Constitution and in a fair and accurate count. A census taker is not going to care if you got people living in your house that your landlord doesn't know about. Not going to tell your landlord. They're not going to tell ICE. But if you don't count everybody in your household, you will lose your voice. And that's what their people want. Make them count you. As an act of defiance of nothing else, make them count you. And when people say it's only supposed to be citizens, I remind them of something. When the founding fathers thought about the census, they were very explicit that we counted everybody in this country. And you know why? Because the South wanted their slaves counted. And slaves were not citizens of this country. They knew exactly what they were doing. For those brothers and sisters who are in chains, make them count you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina. So that's a message, right? Make them count you. We represent SEIU Healthcare represents over 90,000 people, workers in 4 states. Majority of those being women and the vast majority of them being women of color. One of the things that we're working really hard to do as supporters since the beginning of Women's March Chicago is to make sure that all women's voices are counted.
Yes, yes.
That you're counted in the census as well as at the polls. So let your voice and let your vote count, and the only way you can do that is to participate. So we're gonna do what today? Register people to vote, and what else? Make sure that people get to the polls, right?
Yes.
Okay. We want to thank you very much for coming out today and standing with Women's March Chicago, and we're looking forward to building and coordinating one of the largest marches in the country. And what I know and believe, and it's been proven, if we do it together, it can happen. Thank you.